play roulette?
On occasion.
Well, let me give you a word of advice. Always bet on black.
Fasten your seatbelts, make sure your tray tables are in their original position, because today we're taking the action up to 35,000 feet to talk about the classic 1992 action, or Passenger 57. What's happening out there, guys? I hope you're all feeling fantastic in your worlds. Today here we're diving into Wesley Snipes' first step into the action genre for a Die Hard inspired action romp that I think still holds up as a great watch today. I'm going to talk about the history of this flick, we're going to cover some fun facts, and of course I'm going to give you my quick review on this one, so let's dive into the movie that made Wesley Snipes a certified action star.
Oh man.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to check you myself.
It's all that metal plate in his head. It's an old war wound.
Now, I grew up watching this movie. I remember seeing it in the theater for a friend's birthday when I was like 14 or 15 years old, and I absolutely loved it. This one dropped in November of '92, and what would really be the beginning of Snipes' A-list run throughout the decade at the box office. The year prior, in '91, Snipes definitely showed his dramatic chops as the iconic Nino Brown in New Jack City, as well as in the lead role of Spike Lee's Jungle Fever. Then in early '92, he would flex his comedic skills and his on-court game alongside Woody Harrelson in White Men Can't Jump. I always viewed Snipes as being very versatile, like say Bruce Willis was at the time, a guy who could really be comfortable in many different genres, but action was king at the box office at the time, and Snipes after this movie would deliver a string of viable hits like Demolition Man with Stallone, Boiling Point with Dennis Hopper, Rising Sun with Sean Connery, as well as Drop Zone and Money Train with Woody Harrelson again, and his eventual turn as the Daywalker in '98's Blade. But it really did all start with Passenger 57, where Snipes would show that he could be a formidable player in the action genre, one that could stand shoulder to shoulder with names like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, and Seagal. However, he was far from the first choice for this movie. It was originally a role written for Stallone to star in, but he turned it down. Steven Seagal, Eddie Murphy, Denzel Washington, and even NFL star at the time Brian the Boz Bosworth were considered for the lead of this role, but it went to Snipes, and rightfully so, because to me, he was perfect for the smooth-talking, ass-kicking Air Marshal John Cutter. Passenger 57 was reportedly named after a condiment, and it had an estimated budget of $15 million, and I think it did pretty well. It pulled in a little more than $10.5 million its domestic opening weekend, and would go on to earn a respectable $66 million worldwide, so it was far from a failure despite the plotline's reliance on borrowed tropes, which honestly didn't really appeal to the critics at the time. But I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret here. Most critics are self-righteous, self-serious, and too busy looking for the next great film that they often overlook the fun ones, because this was more than enough of a fast-paced action thriller for audiences to have a great time with. It was directed by Kevin Hooks, who did a good job in this movie. He also helmed films like the comedy Strictly Business with Halle Berry, the Lawrence Fishburne-led actioner Fled, and Black Dog starring Patrick Swayze. And the movie had a charming supporting cast wrapped around Snipes as well. Tom Sizemore comes in as Cutter's slick friend Sly Del Vecchio. Ernie Lively is amusing as the hillbilly local chief Biggs. And it had Alex Datcher as the flight attendant / love interest Marty Slayton, who, despite not really popping chemistry-wise with Snipes, was more than capable in her role, and it also had a very early performance from Elizabeth Hurley as well. Which leaves us with the most important part of this movie outside of Snipes, that being the villain played by Bruce Payne, and what I consider to be a fantastic performance as this sadistic international terrorist, which on its own should tell you something about how dangerous this man was. He's not just a terrorist, he's an international one. So he really was a true co-star to Snipes here, because the energy in their performances is what makes this movie hold up over the years when so many other like it clearly have not.
Trust your instincts.
My instincts are to wax your ass all over this floor.
Those are your emotions acting without the benefit of intellect.
Because this one just works. It's a fun, fast-paced action thriller that really thrives on the charisma of Wesley Snipes and Payne. It isn't long before the action takes up to the skies, and from there, the tension really never lets up. It quickly introduces a comically deranged villain in Charles Rain, who, when we meet him, is attempting to change his face with plastic surgery, because that's what true badasses do to evade capture, but of course, it doesn't work. He's captured and set to be flown to LA to face punishment for his crimes. scenes. Snipes' Air Marshal John Cutter is also introduced. He's a broken man still reeling from the loss of his wife during a robbery gone wrong. He takes a job from his friend Sly in an anti-terrorism unit of his company, and of course, he's also going to be flying out to the City of Angels so that he can meet with the company's president, thus putting both Cutter and Rain on the same plane on a collision course for action that delivers an adrenaline-pumping ride. It's filled with plenty of fun, tense, confined action on the plane and some wide-open action and mayhem at a local fair that naturally increases the stakes because there's so many innocent people all over the place. And sure, I won't deny it's all by-the-numbers stuff, but it definitely works. Snipes comes from the bathroom to face his foe for the first time, and it's as climactic as you could ask for. Rain quickly kills a hostage in the showdown, showing that he will stop at nothing, and from there you can instantly sense the danger of this mission Cutter is going to have to work his way through, which naturally leads to a string of appealing action sequences and fight scenes that just litter the rest of the runtime as the very sultry but imposing musical score heightens the intensity of each scene with ease. The game of cat and mouse on this plane is a fun one as Cutter takes out some of Rain's team and Rain dispenses one amusingly suave and sadistic line of dialogue after another.
Never mention my childhood. Have I made myself clear? Yeah.
Who's in charge? I am. Once again, who's in charge?
You are.
Excellent. Do you have any children, Douglas?
A daughter.
A family man. And, I'll have the chicken.
How appropriate. I'll have the steak. Keep the champagne on ice. We'll celebrate later.
Those two agents you murdered on the plane were friends of mine.
Thank you for telling me. I do enjoy knowing the people whose lives I've touched.
Our hero Cutter gets the upper hand when he dumps the plane's fuel. This causes a forced landing in a small county town to refuel, which opens the door to plenty of action in the middle of this fair with some fun gunplay and moments of tension. Cutter and Rain are just lurking around the crowd, and it all results in some delightfully enjoyable suspense. The momentum shifts between Cutter and Rain throughout the progression of the story, and it's a fun, wild ride. It's just a game for Rain. It's a mission of justice for Cutter, and despite its simplicity and the familiarity of the plot beats, I think it can stand on its own merits with plenty of its own creativity and just a charming atmosphere overall. Like most villains do in this movie, Rain seemingly gets away, but in true action hero style, Snipes sneaks back onto the plane to stop this international terrorist for good, and overall, Passenger 57 after the first 15 minutes is essentially non-stop action. With Snipes delivering everything that you need for a larger-than-life hero, he showcases his martial arts skills. This allows the camera to just sit back and capture it all, which really does translate into a collection of very smooth and fluid fight sequences. Snipes is spinning and kicking and punching and elbowing, and he does it all with a gravitas that evokes everything you want in an action movie hero. It's also been reported that both Snipes and Payne insisted on doing their own stunts for the final showdown. I think this was a great move. It really makes the final fight pop on screen as this plane is going down and Rain and Cutter are fighting to the death amid all the chaos, and it's just a great time to watch. Hooks' direction was more than capable during the entire film, and the adrenaline-pumping finale in this one is a fun, rewarding payoff. And Snipes, despite this movie being his first big action movie, kind of felt like a guy that had been an action star for years, but it would really just be the beginning of his run as an action star, and rightfully so, because he showed that he could carry an action flick on his own with his own style, and that it could appeal to a global audience, and Passenger 57 would be just the beginning for him. And I think that's it for today, guys. This has been my throwback review of Passenger 57. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely put it on your watch list. If you have seen it, watch it again. It can easily pull you back into all the adventure and certainly remind you why Snipes is one of the best in the genre who is long overdue for a big screen comeback.